everybody. Welcome into the Shelby County High School Football Show alongside Andrew Simonson. I am Alec Etheridge, and round one of the playoffs in the books. We now head to round two, and Andrew, we've got three teams that have advanced from the AHSA. We've got Cornerstone playing in the semifinals of the AISA. So we've got a lot of action still to talk about. Round one, we see Thompson, Spain Park, Vincent all win in advance. So we've got those three teams taking part in a second round game this week. Going to be some big games ahead against some really good teams that we talk about. And then we obviously have Cornerstone competing against Evangel out of Montgomery in the semifinals of the AISA. So plenty to touch on there. But looking at the teams that had their season come to an end last week, we've got a few that we want to touch on. We've got to start with Evangel winning a state championship. So, Andrew, I want to turn it to you there and talk about that game as the Evangel Lightning walk away with the state championship.
Yeah, Evangel's offense has one of its best performances of the season, pulling away from East Central and just really dominating the latter stretches of that game, much as we expected, in order to secure that ACSC state championship. So big fight shown from them, and a huge props to Coach Tim Smith for getting a third straight ACSC title. As we mentioned in previous weeks, they will not be traveling down to Florida to compete in the NHSA national tournament, so they will not be defending their national championship streak. But overall, just a phenomenal season where they go undefeated in 8-man, test themselves against some really good competition up at the 11-man level, and really prepare themselves for what should be a very bright future to come for this team. We have some notable performances from there as well. Kemp Swords got named Mr. Football for all the ACSC. He's been an absolutely phenomenal dual threat quarterback for the Lightning all season long, and all he did in the title game was go 9 of 12 passing for 200 yards, 2 touchdowns against 1 pick. And then he continues to prove himself as a solid runner on the ground, 16 carries for 142 yards and 5 touchdowns, along with 6 tackles on the defensive end. I don't know many coaches that wouldn't want to have him as a great athlete on their team at the college level, so big props to him for that. And then the title game MVP was Will Welch. Caught 4 balls for 102 yards and then returned to kick 75 yards for a touchdown, so big props to him for a great game there. And then the defense. The defense had another phenomenal game despite giving up a lot of points. 3 double-digit tacklers on the game, and that's Eli Black with 14, Reed Castleberry with 13, and Ethan Stallings for 11. All SCR Stars worthy performances for those guys, and they close out their season on a very, very high note.
Yeah, very impressive for Evangel to claim another ACSC state championship. Those guys stepped up in their biggest game of the season and improved it. They proved the talent that they had. They put it together in the biggest game of the year, and they walk away with another title. You look at the teams that entered the playoffs this year and fell in round one. Shelby County, they fall 14-9 in the opening round to Citronelle. A very good football game that you got to see. Give me a quick synopsis of that football game. It really came down to the offense just not converting in the red zone.
Yeah, and honestly, it really just came down to those few different plays. Shelby County got inside the Citronelle 30 on 7 different occasions. Only one of those times ended in a touchdown, that 25-yard dump pass to Palmieri down there, along with the blocked field goal, and then 5 different times they turned the ball over on downs. But I think that says a lot about what the Citronelle defense was able to present them. Coach Ellison and I talked a lot after the game about that, and we both agreed that the Citronelle defense was legit. We said that going into the week as well, that it would be a very defensive battle, and that's what we got. We got less than 25 points combined from these two teams, 2 points coming from a safety, actually, as they blocked that punt towards the end to give Shelby County a big chance to take the lead late in that game. But just a couple big mistakes on the defensive end from Shelby County end up making the difference in that one. But still, a phenomenal season. And while it ends in the same round as they did last year, this is a polar opposite team to where it was a year ago.
Yeah, the growth, too. They continue to get better. They're still a young football team, too. And so size-wise should come back better from an experience standpoint and a physicality standpoint next year. So this is a team on the rise under head coach Zeb Ellison. A lot of growth this year. Expect even more next year. The Helena Huskies, they also fall in the opening round, as do the Chelsea Hornets. Helena falls to St. Paul's 26-0 in a shutout. Just an all-around tough game for the offense to get going in that football game. Defense played an okay game to keep them in it for a while, but St. Paul's in the second half comes out and puts that one away. Chelsea, they fall to number 1 Saraland 42-3 in the opening round of the playoffs on last Thursday night. And just all around a tough game there. That's a team in Saraland that's going to have a strong chance to compete for the state championship this year in the 6A classification. So those teams out of the playoffs, but now we're down to to the final three in the AHSAA that we're going to talk about. We've got the Thompson Warriors, the Spain Park Jaguars, and the Vincent Yellow Jackets all heading in to the second round of the playoffs, and they've all got some entertaining matchups ahead this week. We're going to have one team at home, and that's going to be Spain Park. The other two hitting the road. Our game of the week, though, going to feature these Thompson Warriors. Right here at Thompson High School, the Warriors getting set to go on the road to take on number 1 Auburn in Class 7A, a game that we've seen played for a state championship in recent years. We get it in the second round, which is technically the quarterfinals here in Class 7A, but very much a state championship caliber matchup that we're going to get as Thompson hits the road to take on Auburn. We're going to talk about that one off the top of the show here in just a second. We're going to break down Spain Park and the big matchup they've got coming up as well this week on their home field off of a thrilling win over McGill-Tulane last week, and the Vincent Yellow Jackets hitting the road in the second round of the playoffs as well. All three of those games we'll go in depth on, and then we've also got Cornerstone battling in the semifinals, a rematch game from a game earlier this year against Evangel Montgomery in the AISA semifinals there for the Cornerstone Chargers. All of that ahead on this week's show. Of course, at the end, our SCR Stars of the week, so stay tuned throughout, but we're going to start with the team right here behind us, the Thompson Warriors, as they hit the road to take on number 1 Auburn. The Thompson Warriors have played for a state championship in each of the last 6 seasons, an unbelievable streak in what they've been able to put together there. This is a team that won 4 consecutive state championships. Obviously, that streak came to an end last year in what was a great game in the state championship against Central Phoenix City. But this week, just to get to the semifinals of the Class 7A playoffs, they've got to go through the number 1 team in the state. You don't normally get matchups like this early in the postseason. Obviously, it is the quarterfinals, so you expect a big matchup. But to take on the number 1 team in Class 7A and the Auburn Tigers in this football game, it's going to be a challenge for Thompson. But at the end of the day, these are 2 teams that can compete for a state championship. They're battle-tested. They've played in difficult regions. They're going to be ready for this matchup, and I don't see either of them getting blown out coming into this one. But just a quick synopsis here. Rematch of the 2020 and 2022 state championship games. We all know that 2021 was the crazy outcome with the block punt return for a touchdown, the field goal in the last seconds. Thompson walks that one off. An incredible, one of the most wild finishes you'll see in football history. And then a couple years ago, the 2022 state championship game, complete opposite. Thompson came out, controlled that game from start to finish, 49-24. So in these big postseason games, the last 2 times these teams have met, it's been Thompson walking away with the victory. Andrew, this one, though, looks to be a little bit different of a story on paper to this point in the season. We've seen an undefeated Auburn team to this point go through a difficult region. We've seen a Thompson team that has 3 losses, those blemishes on their record, but all 3 by 1 point in overtime against very, very good football teams. So where do these 2 teams stand going into this matchup?
There's really not much from either of these 2 teams that are going to give. You look at them on paper, they're both so strong on both sides of the ball. Obviously, you've got an Auburn team that's averaging close to 50 points per game on offense and has just a plethora of stars for them. Jackson Kilgore, their quarterback, has gone for over 2,000 yards already this season, 22 touchdowns against just 2 interceptions. Obviously, that Thompson secondary is going to be looking to add to that 2 number in interceptions. Look for Anquan Fagans. So you get matched up with a guy like Peyton Plott, who's going for over 900 yards as a receiver with 5 touchdowns. You got multiple all-stars on both sides of the ball. Caleb Pitt's definitely going to be a guy who the defensive line is going to be looking out for. And this Thompson offensive line is really going to have to neutralize as they protect Trent Seaborn. But this is the team that's really shown its strength throughout the season. Obviously, the number 1 team in the state hasn't lost and has really prevailed over a gauntlet of teams like Central Phoenix City, Carver Montgomery, Enterprise, Opelika, and even Vestavia Hills. They met pretty early in the season as well. Thompson, obviously, their offense and defense both looked very strong, not only a couple weeks ago against Prattville, but they continued that against Daphne. That was the one thing I was trying to look out for from this team is how similar would it look to when they played Prattville, and it looked just about identical. Defense has an even more improved showing, shutting out Daphne and getting a couple of big turnovers on that front as well. And then just the offense continues to light it up. Trent Seaborn got the ball out to a couple receivers. This time, Price Lewis and Darian Mosley both stepping up in big ways for this team. It continues to be a very balanced attack and one that could pose a lot of problems for an Auburn team if they're able to spread the ball around to multiple different options. But Auburn is the best team in the state for a reason. They're giving up just 14 points per game on defense. So when you look at two high-powered offenses going up against two high-powered defenses, there's really not much room for error for either of these two sides.
Yeah, not much room at error at all. Before we move on, I want to tell you about 3D Air Services, a team there that is also a championship contending team in 3D Air Services and what they're able to do. Since 2005, they've proudly called Shelby County home. And as we transition seasons, hopefully got that cool down coming soon, you're going to want to turn that heater on at some point, and it may not be working. You may get that burning smell, whatever the case may be. You're going to want to call 3D Air Services. They're going to take care of all of your HVAC needs. 205-664-3501, 205-664-3501. Proud sponsors of the Thompson Warriors, proud sponsors of us here on the Shelby County Football Show. They live and breathe Shelby County, and they want to take care of your home or business. They believe in the power of community, teamwork, and all of that so that they can take care of everything that you need them to right there at your home or place of business. So make sure you give them a call. Visit them, 3dairservices.com, 3dairservices.com. J-Car and his certified team going to take great care of you throughout the fall transition into winter, and then also from that winter transition into spring and summer next year when it comes to your air conditioner at the same time. So make sure you reach out to them. Again, 205-664-3501 or 3dairservices.com. Andrew, to me, this matchup, when you look at it, Thompson's defense is extremely good. They're a talented unit on the defensive side of the football, and we've seen that throughout the season. When you look at what they've been able to do on that side of the ball, you know going into every matchup, you're going to be in the football game. You look at their three losses, they lose 15-14 to Grayson in overtime. They lose to Clay Chalkville 14-13 in overtime, and they lose to Hoover 27-26 in overtime. All of those 1-point losses in extra time there, but they've also got some close wins, 27-21 over Lipscomb, 15-10 over Hewitt-Trussville. So what that tells me is that the defense is going to keep you in every game. So look at that side of it first, and going up against this talented Auburn offense, that defense you still expect to be able to keep them close, right?
Absolutely. And we haven't really seen any signs to the contrary this year, as it's neutralized pretty much every single offense it's come up against. And we've seen what some of these offenses like Hewitt, like Vestavia can put up throughout the season. These are some pretty difficult offenses that they're facing, and really able to stay in these games and make them good wins, or good results at least, for this Thompson team. So they're going to need to continue to bring the pressure up front. That third down defense especially is going to be incredibly crucial. And you're going to give up some first downs to this Auburn team. It's basically a given when you've got especially a great passing attack like the Tigers have this season. But you definitely want to make sure that you can not only lock up as many options as possible, but you also make those drives as short as possible. If you give up a first down, don't let that get to you, and really sit down and recover, get off the field on third down, and then set up your offense with some good field position.
It's how you respond. If you give up one third down, it's about not giving up that second one or giving up that chunk play. If you give up a first down on a third or fourth down conversion, just limit it. Don't make it a 15, 20-yard gain, and if you can do that, then get off the field on the next third down, you're in good shape. But it's when you start to give up those bulk plays and when you consistently don't get off the field on third down, and that comes the more often that you don't do it, because you're getting more tired against a very physical football team. So that's going to be a key for Thompson, like you said, getting off the field on third down and continuing to play your game defensively. But you don't lose 3 overtime games by 1 point if you're not in every game, and they've won the rest of them. And so the defense has really stepped up and put them in every game. Now, to me, in this kind of matchup against another good defense and an Auburn team that's giving up 14.7 points per game, it boils down to how's the offense going to match that? How are they going to pair? So when you look at it, we've seen this team the last several weeks and what they've been able to do offensively and their improvements, 45, 42, and 50 in 3 of the last 4 games. And they put up 26 against a very good Hoover defensive football team, and that was the second most points that Hoover's given up this year. So the offense in the last 4 games is playing some of its best football of the season.
Yeah, I still do maintain that I think that Thompson offense could have done a little bit more against Hoover. Could have gotten some big gains and gotten into the end zone late in that game, especially as the closer that they got to the end zone. It definitely felt like Hoover's red zone defense got some of the best of them, and then obviously we've talked a little bit about some of the special teams blunders that have caused some of those 3 losses as well. But I really do think that this offense needs to control the ball and make sure that they get to the end zone. This team has definitely done well against some good defenses like Hoover, but you need to come together and have your best football game and have consistently good drives where you can at least get to the end zone every other drive, I would say. And really just make sure that you can take this Auburn defense out of it to the point where you start to control a little bit of this game as you go on. Because I do believe this Thompson offense has the goods. We've obviously seen that over the past couple of weeks. It's can they do it in the big game, in the big moments, in situations like this? We haven't exactly seen that to this point, and I think that that's going to be the difference.
So with that said, ultimately you think Auburn's going to be the one that walks away with the win, unless Thompson can prove it. They've got to go out there and prove that they can win a game with their offense in a tight game.
Exactly. Until I see it, I'm not going to believe it. Now, is that probably locker room material for this team? Yes, and I'm absolutely fine with that. If this team comes out and beats Auburn, it'll be a great moment for them, great moment for this county, and definitely set them a long way towards going towards that state championship game, especially with Enterprise or Baker coming here next week. That's a more winnable game than this one that they're going to have. But having seen it 3 separate times, them falling short in this situation. Obviously, you look at that Hewitt game as well. They're 2-3 overall in 1-score games, so they have found some success in that. But it's those 1-point overtime losses that continue to get to me about this team. And until I see them get a big, solid top 10 win or top 5 win, I should say, over a team like Auburn, then I'm not going to pick them.
Yeah, if they get into overtime in this one, go for 2.
Right.
I mean, that's pretty straightforward. Yes. You got to go for 2 at this point. I think that the football gods owe you one at this point in the season with the heartbreak that they've had so far this year. But yeah, I mean, you said it a second ago. This game is, to me, the difference in who gets to the state championship from this portion of the bracket. You win this one, you get a home game here at Thompson next week. You're going to be a favorite going into that matchup next week. You're still going to have to work hard and practice and prepare. But that means they can really pour a lot into this, knowing that, hey, guys, if we can win this one, we can beat anybody in the state, and we can win a state championship this year. And we saw it when we showed up today for the show. Seems like they're being practiced really hard here on a Monday afternoon because they know what's at stake. They know this is a state championship game, basically, in their minds. And why you have to have that for 3 consecutive weeks the rest of the way to win a state championship, that's how champions are crowned. They have that mindset each day of practice for the entire run that you're looking at in the postseason. And that's the special thing about high school football. It takes a lot of mental preparation, and you got to be prepared. And this Thompson team's going to do it. To me, same situation as you, though. We got to see the offense go out and do it in a big-time game. You look at Trent Seaborn and what he's able to do throwing the football. We've seen it the last few weeks. They have been trying to build up that passing game, and it's worked. It's worked. But this is their toughest test since the Hoover loss, and it's really their toughest test defensively maybe all season, but it's on par with the games like Clay Chalkville, with the games, Hewitt-Trussville and their talented defense, the beginning of the year in Grayson and that talented defense as well. So this is going to be the best defense they've seen in a long time. This offense is going to have to go out and score points in, and ultimately it's going to come down to guys like Darian Mosley, Price Lewis, R.J. Evans and Mike Dujon running and catching the football out of the backfield, and even guys like Brooks Byers stepping up and making big-time plays in the receiving portion of this football game. If they do that, they're going to win this football game. If those guys step up, they will win, but they got to prove it. And I've given them plenty of locker room material in the past, and they've let me know that they've used it. This is their chance. They've got to go out and prove it against the best team. If they win this one, I don't see myself picking against them the next week or in the state championship game, no matter who they play. So this is their week to prove it. If they prove it, they're going to be playing next week. If they don't, then it's going to be a tough sledding game, and they're still going to have a chance because of that defense, but going to be a lot more challenging. So, man, I'm getting a little worked up and passionate just talking about it. But I know Thompson's going to come out. They're going to have a good game plan, both sides of the ball, with what D4 does on the defensive side, Freeman, and the help he has there offensively. They're going to have a good game plan drawn up, and they're going to go out and fight and play like hell to win this game. And I think that ultimately it's going to be a one-score game. It's just a matter of the offense making a difference at the end of the night to pick up a win. We'll see how it unfolds. It's on the road. It's at Auburn. But this Thompson team is going to be prepared for the biggest game of the season, a game that let's be honest, is really a state championship level game. So it's going to be a lot of fun. Andrew's going to be down there. He's making the road trip. Dedicated employee, dedicated lover of sports and football, and covering the Thompson Warriors. So he's going to be down there roaming the sidelines for us on Friday night for this big matchup. So make sure you follow along. He'll have the Facebook Live pregame show with us from down there too. So we're going to have a lot of fun with that matchup. Can't wait to see how that one unfolds between Thompson and Auburn on Friday night. Well, Spain Park's winning streak lived on last week in the opening round of the playoffs as they pick up a thrilling round one victory over McGill-Tulane, and 45-35, not really the game we expected, mainly from that defense. The defense gave up some big plays, but that to me just shows the matchup between Region 3 in Class 6A and Region 1 in Class 6A. I mean, all across the board, that Region 1 is so challenging, and McGill-Tulane being the 4th seed, that offense was talented. They had a quarterback stepping up into the pocket every play. They were able to get the ball out in space. They made some big-time plays. That was a good football team that Spain Park just beat, and I think that's more of the storyline to take away from that game than the defense played a bad game. It was just a really good offense that they went up against. Now they're the second longest winning streak in the state at 16 consecutive games. They're obviously 11-0 on the season. And the offense clicked on all cylinders last week. So when you look at how they're playing this week, they get a 9-2 Russell County team that's coming off a 42-25 win over Northridge in round one. What's the big the outlook on this game, or the big highlight going into this one between Spain Park and Russell County?
I think to me it's the strength of schedule between both of these two sides. Now, obviously Russell County 9-2, solid job for them to get here. But I haven't really seen them fare well against some good teams so far. They've got 2 losses on the season. One is a 46-14 win loss against Pike Road that ended up deciding that region title, and then a loss to a 4-6 team out of 5A in Eufaula. Usually a perennial playoff team, but a 4-6 team, you're losing 34-21. And then a couple of 2-score games in the regular season as well. Only beat Wetumpka by 5. That ended up deciding the 2 and 3 seed, and then beating Stanhope by 14. I really do think that Spain Park is set up as the better team, having gone through the gauntlet that they have, not just in Class 6A Region 3, but beyond that, the difficult 7A opponents that they've faced within non-region play as well. So I do think that they've set themselves up well for this game, and I think that they showed a lot last week in just how much they can fight. We've seen throughout the season the Spain Park team knows how to fight with its back up against the wall and can continually deliver when they need to be called upon. It's a big reason why they're 11-0 this season. It's a big reason why I think they'll win again this week as well. You look at the way these two defenses are lining up, Spain Park giving up 16 points per game and Russell County giving up 24. The offenses are a little bit similar, both notching up close to 40 points per game. So to me, it's going to come down to the defenses, who gives up less. And while we did see, obviously, Spain Park struggle to an extent against a really good McGill offense, I think this is the week they bounce back. I think they're going to be motivated off that result, really want to come into this one with a little bit of fire and something to prove, and then really show out strong and make a really good result of it against Russell County. I do like the Jags to get the win this week.
Yeah, before we move on and talk a little bit more about this game, I want to talk about Scooter's Coffee right there on Highway 280. If you're looking to get your fix of caffeine before getting to this game, or if it's another hot night or it's a colder night than expected, they're going to have your blender, they're going to have your frappe, whatever you need from a cold standpoint, and then they're also going to have those hot coffees as well. And it's the perfect time. You got all those great fall flavors out right now, and then you're transitioning. You've also got those Christmas flavors coming out right there at Scooter's Coffee. They've got the cake bites, they've got the omelet egg bites, they've got the pretzel snackers, so much more from a food and drink standpoint, and their service is unbelievable. They have you in and out of there in no time. You get into that drive-through, you've got your order in, and they've got it to you at the window almost as soon as you pull up. So they're going to take great care of you there at Scooter's Coffee. Make sure to visit them, scooterscoffee.com. Check out everything they have to offer. Also visit them at Highway 280 in Inverness, next to Chipotle and Home Depot, right there near Valleydale. Perfect location if you're heading to the football game Friday night to get your pregame caffeine or snack. You can also get it in Chelsea if you're heading down 280 to Auburn, or if you're coming up 280 heading to Tuscaloosa or to Birmingham, whatever it may be, you can stop by either of those locations on 280 to get your fix there at Scooter's Coffee. Great sponsor of the Shelby County High School Football Show and the Spain Park Jaguars this year. Andrew, you touched on the defense for Spain Park. We saw what they did last week, struggled a little bit. They're taking on a Russell County offense that's scoring 40 points per game basically. what is the big adjustment that this Spain Park team is going to have to make on the defensive side of the football to be able to have success against the Russell County offense that's shown some promise at times going into this matchup?
It's kind of like what I mentioned earlier in the Thompson segment, and they're going to have to make sure that these drives are short and that they don't get to the end zone. I really do think that if you're able to limit what they're able to do from an offensive standpoint, obviously you're probably going to give up some scores. You got to make sure that you rebound from those. But if you can consistently get off the field in a quick manner, I really do think that this defense can succeed against just about anyone. And I think that they can limit this Russell County offense, even though they have succeeded in a vast majority of their games this season. You don't score close to 40 points per game without doing that.
But bingo, you nailed it. I set you up for that because I saw what worked last week. And early in the game, we saw flashes of it for Spain Park. And it was they came out with a determination to get off the football field. And we saw it on drive one from the defense, which allowed them to build a little bit of an early lead. They go up 14-0. Ultimately, we're leading that one 21-7 as well. So they were having success early in the football game, but then it got away from them. And, McGill was able to do whatever they wanted to. Every single drive, long drives, short drives, they were just marching right down the field. And when they came out in the second half and they scored on that first drive of the second half, you thought, okay, Spain Park must have made some adjustments at half. And then you see McGill go right down and score.
Right.
And in your mind, you're thinking, oh, no, this is going to be a long second half. They're going to storm away and win this one. But Spain Park dug deep, and they dug deep on the defensive side late. The offense, I was never really worried about. They've got so much talent there. I knew they were going to score points, but that defense dug deep. And we've seen it so many times this year in close games. We see it against Helena. We saw it against Hoover early in the season. Even though the defense gave up a lot of points in that game against Hoover, they buckled down late, and it made the difference at the end of the game when they were able to get the offense to score some points again. The defense stepped up and they made big time plays when they needed to. And to me, that's exactly what you need from a team that's going to make a deep run in the playoffs, is knowing, hey, things hadn't really gone our way, but we can still make a play to win this football game. Spain Park's defense did that last week, and now they're taking on, while it's a good Russell County offense, it's an offense that, like you said, hasn't been tested against top quality opponents consistently throughout the season, and I think that's the difference. I think Spain Park's defense bounces back, but I also think the offense is going to play well. And Andrew, I want to hear a little bit from you, and then I'll close down the segment, but a little bit from you. The defense comes out and plays well. That's a big bonus because of what they can do offensively.
Exactly. And I really do think the defense almost kind of needed a game like that last week.
Yep.
I mean, you hadn't really been
overall, I think that the entire team needed a close game early in the playoffs because they've won so many, and when you win so many, it's hard to when you face that adversity, it's tough to get through.
It's not only that they've won so many, it's the fact that the stretch run into the playoffs was largely dominant for them. They haven't really been tested arguably since that James Clemens game, and largely rolled through the back half of region play against some easier opposition as they went on to clinch that region title. And then from there, able to rest some players in the final 2 weeks. A little bit of a shaky start against Gardendale, but other than that, largely solid for this team overall. And you're going to need to continue to play your best football, because we haven't mentioned it yet in the show, but next week you're either getting Saraland or McAdory on the road, and my money is on Saraland.
Yeah. So likely playing the team that everybody favors for state championship right now. So, yeah, you got to keep playing well, and you really got to get that defense playing well going into a matchup like that. But when you've got an offense that's as balanced as they are, Brock Bradley able to throw the ball down the field, Corey Barber, one of the best receivers, if not the best receiver, I think, in the county this year with what he's been able to do. But what impressed me last week, Dakari Shanks and CJ Cowley. Those two guys, I mean, it was just unbelievable. Shanks was a determined dude out there. I mean, every time he touched it, whether it was for a yard to get a fourth down game or it was a big play, he was running through people, and he was determined to get as much out of every play as he could, and it showed. Those two guys both over 100 yards, Shanks right around 200 yards. It was an impressive performance there. That's going to open things up even more in the passing game going into a matchup like this with Russell County. To me, the only thing they're missing, and we saw it a little bit early in the season, was more weapons out wide. If they've got that other guy who steps up in addition to Barber at the receiver position, this offense becomes almost unguardable at the high school level. So with Shanks and Cowley playing the way they did last week, I think that carries over. Offense is going to play well. Defense will improve. Great opportunity for the Spain Park Jaguars to pick up a big playoff win. I'll be out there Friday night for this matchup. It's going to be a lot of fun. Can't wait to see that one unfold, see if the Jags can get into the quarterfinals of the Class 6A playoffs. They've already got that first playoff win since 2015. That year, they went on to play for a state championship against McGill-Tulane, who they just beat in the first round. So, it's in the sky. It's right up there. The writing's in the stars. We'll see how things unfold here the rest of the way for the Spain Park Jaguars. But a great run continues. We'll see if they can make it 17 in a row on Friday night against Russell County. Well, the Vincent Yellow Jackets looked about as good as you could in an opening round win against Sandrock, 49-0 shutout. They played well on both sides of the ball. We saw the offense make some plays that we've been needing to see them make going into the playoffs, and we saw the defense continue to play well, which has been the consistent side of the football for the Yellow Jackets so far this season. Now 9-2. They hit the road in the second round of the playoffs to take on Winston County. This is an 11-0 Winston County team, which is it's shown drastic improvements from what that team was as a non-playoff team at 5-5 last year. Talk a little bit more about that in a second. But Andrew, just from a straightforward standpoint, what's the big thing to look forward to in this matchup between Vincent and Winston County?
Well, for Vincent, it's a chance at history, first off. This is one of the biggest games in school history for them because of what it means to them. This would be a chance to get to their quarterfinals for the first time ever in school history. Obviously, you had a great team 2 years ago that falls in the second round and is unable to get over that hump for them. And I know for a fact that this team is motivated to do that. You are going to have to go up against one of your best tests in the season in an undefeated Winston County team. But as I think you're probably about to explain, I think this team's a little bit beatable.
Yeah. This is a team in Winston County that just hasn't played the most difficult of schedules this year. And the biggest benefit they got was in reclassification, the shift in their region. A team, like I said, that was 5-5 last year. They've just, you look at what they've done this year, 11-0 is impressive.
Right.
But this is a team with their opponent's record is sitting at 56-71 on the season so far. Vincent's opponent record 62-63. So Vincent's teams that they've played much closer to that 500 level so far this season. You got to give Winston County credit for what they've done. They've taken care of business against the teams that they've played. 481-106. They've outscored their opponents so far this season, but you just have that feeling that with the schedule that Vincent has played, scoring 30.1 points per game, giving up 15.5, those numbers against the schedule they've played almost more impressive to me than Winston County scoring 43.7 and giving up 9.6 and being undefeated in the schedule they've played.
Yeah, and I mean, to be fair, Vincent has gone 2-2 against teams with records above 500, and those two wins were against Winterboro and Sulligent. You end up losing the games to Tuscaloosa Academy and Greene County, but those are also two of your best tests of the season. I think Greene County is a borderline top 10 team within Class 2A, and then Tuscaloosa Academy, in my opinion, could probably go on and win a state championship. And you show that you're competitive in that one. I really do think that a game like that sets you up well for this one. But to me, it always came down to the defense. Was the defense going to recapture that form that we saw earlier in the season? We saw a little bit of signs of life against Montevallo, but there was a part of me that said, it's Montevallo. It's not an offense that has impressed, quite frankly, anybody, even though it's at a 5A level. We'll see what happens against Sandrock. And then you go and beat Sandrock almost 50-0.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of what I want to go to next, is that, I mean, to score 49 in a shutout, the defense played well.
Right.
But to score 49, what does that do for the offense coming into a game like this? Because one other tidbit coming off of the schedule that Winston County played is you look at their opening round game. What was the final of that?
It was 56-34 against a Cold Springs team that they beat 27-6 within the regular season.
Yeah. So, and that's a Cold Springs team scoring 23.1 points per game. So what I saw in that game, their offense still played well.
Right.
Winston County's offense still played well, but the defense gave up a lot of points in that matchup against a team that was 4-7 when you look at forfeiture that gave them a win. You take that away. They were 4-7 this year overall on their record, so not the best team, and you're having to score in the 50s because you gave up 30-plus points in that game. So to me, Vincent's offense scoring 49 last week is almost as big as anything going into this matchup.
Yeah, because they have the capability of scoring that many points, and it comes down to the balance that they have on the offensive front. Casey Fields had a great balanced day, both in the run game and in the pass game. Continues to be able to hit guys like Phoenix Maxwell through the air as well. You have other weapons like Aiden Poe looking to step up as well, but it's the run game that continues to pace this Vincent team. Jaden Roberts continues to lead for them in that front, almost like Rykellis Robertson was a year ago. We saw how lethal those two were when paired together. Now it's Roberts plus Casey Fields at the quarterback position, plus Aiden Gassaway back there in the backfield as well. They almost have a three-headed monster that they can go in and attack you with on the running side. That helps them split a few snaps and really be able to maximize every single guy's offensive potential going into a big matchup against a Winston County team that's giving up just 9.6 points per game on defense. Now, obviously, they have that game last week. Unsure whether that's going to prove to be a blip or if it's going to be a true sign of regression on their front on defense. But bottom line is, both sides of the ball, you need to come out and play your best game of the season against Winston County if you want to go out and make history.
Yeah, that's what it boils down to. This is a team that is going to have to come out prepared. As much as we talk about the strength of schedule, Vincent's been a little bit more challenging. They've lost 2 games in that schedule as well, whereas Winston County's undefeated, has the momentum, and has a really good defense. So you know that their defense can play well. How well they play will be seen on Friday, but Vincent has to be ready for a defensive battle, which I think they can play well in. Ultimately, to you, Andrew, what is the outcome of this game?
I'm going to go out on a limb here. I think that Vincent gets it done. I think that this team is battle-tested. I think they've learned from those losses, and I think they're continuing to build themselves into a team that, frankly, I don't think anybody wants to face at the Class 2A level. You've got some really solid teams at the top end of that, but I think with this defense playing as well as it is right now, you see them giving up only 105 yards last week against Sand Rock, as well as a shutout. I really do think that sets them up for success the rest of the way. Now, granted, that was against a 500 level team. This is going to be one of their biggest tests of the season in the top 5 Winston County team. But I think we both agree this team looks beatable. There's some ways to get through on both the offense and the defensive side in order to beat this side. And I really do think that with the momentum that Vincent has, with the way that they've continued to progress throughout the season and learn from their setbacks, I think they're in a position right now where they can do where no Vincent team has ever done before, and that's make the quarterfinals.
Yeah, I look at these two teams and I look at what Winston County would have done with Vincent's schedule. I think they're pretty similar.
Right.
I think they're 9-2. I think they're 10-1, somewhere in that range. And so I think these are very evenly matched teams going into this matchup. But I think it boils down to the schedule. You play a challenging schedule for a reason, and a lot of times you can't control that when it comes to your region. You can't out of region. But when you play a challenging schedule, it prepares you for this time of the year. And Vincent's going to have to come out focused and determined, but I think with that challenging schedule, the way that they play defense, the consistency, doing just enough offensively throughout the year, I think that they win this football game too. But like we both have said, you've got to come out every ounce of energy you have, you've got to get it. As soon as you step onto the field, you got to know where you need to be, what your play call is, and what's going to make the difference in that play. If they come out with that focus and determination and that edge on both sides of the ball, then they will win this football game. If they don't, if they have any doubt in their minds, that's where it costs you. Ultimately, I think the challenges they've been through this season with the injuries, with the schedule they've played, they're prepared for this. They got a chance at school history. They're going to come out and give it every single ounce of energy that they have going into this game. So we'll see. I feel probably more confident than I should in that pick, and we both picked them. So the odds tend to tell you it's going to go the other way, but maybe Vincent can use that to their advantage. I don't know. But it should be a really, really good football game. Both defenses, I think, will end up playing well. I think it's going to be a lower scoring game that comes down to that final quarter, and then which offense can make the difference there in the home stretch to advance to the quarterfinals of the Class 2A playoffs. So a big opportunity for the Vincent Yellow Jackets as they hit the road to take on Winston County this week. We'll see how that one unfolds and if the Vincent Yellow Jackets can make school history. That takes us to our final game as we break down the AISA semifinal matchup between the Cornerstone Chargers and Evangel Montgomery. It's a big matchup for Cornerstone, sitting at 10-0 right now. Another big season as they look to defend their state championship from last year. So Cornerstone playing some good football, but their closest regular season game this year came against this exact team in Evangel Montgomery. You look at that game, 34-26 win, looked like on paper that was going to be all Chargers. An Evangel team that's been just above 500, right around that 500 mark most of the season, and they went in and gave this Cornerstone team some challenges. So when you look at this matchup, Andrew, what stuck out from that first one that Cornerstone's going to be looking to improve on in this one to be able to win it a little bit more comfortably?
Well, I think it boils down to the fact that Evangel Montgomery has a very, very solid offense. I mean, there are so many good offenses at this 8-man division within the AISA, but the Lions are scoring 46.6 points per game, and they managed to catch the Chargers at a great time a couple of weeks ago when they played towards the end of the regular season. That winds up being a one-score game, but Cornerstone has to come from behind multiple times within the second half and truly have to fight for it. That was the first time in quite some time that they've had to fight for a big result, as they've largely coasted within the AISA. And I think a result like that does wonders for this team. You know how you can perform in a close game. You get that first little bit of a scare in you, and I really do think that makes you all that stronger of a football team. I still expect this Cornerstone defense to be tested, but I think they're going to learn from their last meeting. I think Cornerstone has defensive edge ultimately at the end of the day. You look at how these defenses line up on paper, Cornerstone allowing 15.1 points per game, Evangel Montgomery allowing about 30, but is coming off of a 50-0 shutout win over Southern Prep last week. They will have a short week as a result of that. Cornerstone has that bye as a result of the North River forfeit. This game is going to be on a Thursday night out in Columbiana, so it'll be interesting to see how those factors line up as well. But I think this Cornerstone team is going to be motivated, well-rested, and able to make a statement within this one. I think they're going to be motivated to come out and prove that this game was simply a blip on their radar, and really come out and prove that they are the best team within AISA, get that momentum going into a hopeful state championship game next Thursday at the Crampton Bowl. And I think that this team wants to go out on its own terms, go out with another state championship. You've got to win this game in order to do that. I think they realize the gravity of this moment and are able to come out and do that, take care of business.
Yeah, to me, this is eerily similar to what we saw last year when Cornerstone and Springwood matched up in the regular season. A crazy game in the regular, I think Hail Mary ending or something that forced that led to that win for Cornerstone in the regular season. And then they come out in the state championship game and just blow them off the field.
Right.
So the second time they matched up, much different outcome. And that showed me that this is a head coach in James Lee, a team in Cornerstone that can adjust in that second matchup of the season. Also played Evangel in the semifinals last year in addition to the regular season. So it's looking like a very similar path, and they won both matchups, regular season and postseason last year. I think they're going to do the same this year. I think that this is that Cornerstone's the better team, and it simply just boils down to the adjustments that they make from that first matchup earlier in the regular season. I think they do that. I think you got the talent there across the field on both sides of the ball, and I think that they are experienced and shown that they're proven. This is an undefeated team. They played well last year. They're playing well again this year at this level in the AISA, and when you know how to win, you continue to find ways to do it, and I think you're going to see Cornerstone do that again this week as they take on Evangel Montgomery. Advance back to the ACSC State Championship next Thursday down at the Crampton Bowl. Give them a chance to repeat as state champion. Starts this week on Friday night. Got a bye in the first round. Now you start in the semifinals. We'll see if the Chargers are able to pick up a win here against Evangel Montgomery. That takes us to our SCR Stars of the Week segment. And as always, before we jump into our stars on the field, we talk about our star in the restaurant industry, and that is Bertoloni's right there in Calera, right off of I-65 in Calera, so conveniently located for anybody in Shelby County or really the state to get to. You just hit 65 and it's right there off the exit. And they have been voted Shelby Living's best for pizza, date night, and upscale restaurant, all within the year of 2024. So you don't want to miss it. Whether you're planning that next date night, whether you're looking for a pizza to go, or you just want a cool atmosphere to go dine in there, Bertoloni's is the best place you can do it right here in Shelby County for Italian cuisine. They've got those traditional dishes, chicken parmesan, spaghetti and meatballs, anything else, lasagna, ravioli, whatever you can imagine. they're going to have it right there at Bertoloni's. But that pizza is incredible. I promise you're going to want to try it out. And there's so many other things. They got a full bar. They've got a great wine selection. And then that cake slice that we talk about each and every week, the strawberry cake that they're known for, the seasonal options that you get, and so many other flavors that you just have to go try to believe how good they are. So make sure you visit them. See why Sonia Bertoloni and her family have been such a staple in the community for so long. They're going to treat you like family from the second you walk in the door to the second you leave, and maybe even beyond. They appreciate your reviews on Facebook, on Google, whatever it may be as well. So make sure you visit them at Bertoloni's right there in Calera. You can give them a call, place your to-go order, or just, if you need some more info, 205-664-8780, 205-664-8780, or visit their new website, bertolonis.com. You can do your online ordering there. And one thing I suggest, during a busy stretch, we got the holidays coming up, sports season still in full swing. You want to get those family takeout meals. You're going to be able to eat on them for at least a night, but probably a couple of days. It's going to feed the entire family, and you're going to be a hero, I promise you. So make sure you visit them at Bertoloni's. Place the to-go orders and those family meals. You can get those at bertolonis.com. So, Andrew, from one star to the other, we got 12 total SCR stars to talk about this week. 6 and 6 for the two of us. Why don't you kick it off from the top of the list there, and I'll finish it off from there.
Absolutely. We'll start with a few guys from the Thompson Warriors as they had a phenomenal game on both sides of the ball. Let's start with Trent Seaborn, as we have for many weeks. 241 yards and 2 touchdowns for him. Another stellar showing for him and a 50-point showing for the offense. And he had 2 guys step up, as we mentioned earlier in the show. Darian Mosley, their young receiver out there for the Warriors, 7 catches for 108 yards and both of those touchdowns from Seaborn, so great job from him in that. And then Price Lewis gets over 100 yards as well, 6 catches for 106 yards as well. But it's this Thompson defense that we mentioned throughout the show. They held Daphne to 0 points and had a couple of big plays on that front as well. They got a safety to get them up to that 50-point threshold, and then Kevin Davis gets a big scoop and score to help add to the defensive points as well. You get 9 points from your defense on top of what this offense can give you. You're really set up for success, and they're going to need both of those to deliver in a big one against Auburn.
Let's take note of that for the show on Friday night, that we talk about that, because that's a big part of it. This defense can score points in a low-scoring game against a very good Auburn team. That could be ultimately what makes the difference. Why don't I take the Spain Park ones and Vincent, and then I'll let you finish off with Ryan Sipes and Anthony Palmieri. Spoiler alert there. But since we saw those 2 games, probably makes the most sense to do it that way. But Spain Park, big win against McGill-Tulane to open the playoffs. The offense lights out from start to finish. And Dakari Shanks and CJ Calley, big reasons why. Shanks, 24 carries, 200 yards, and a touchdown. Also had 50 receiving yards, so 250 all-purpose yards there for the running back. If he continues to play like that the rest of the way, state championship level team there for the Jags, but especially when you complement him with CJ Calley with 15 carries, 104 rushing yards, and also a 50-yard passing touchdown to Dakari Shanks. So, yeah, those 2 guys playing some good football right now, and I expect that to continue this week into that second-round matchup. Corey Barber, also just Mr. Consistency. The guy can catch everything, and he could have easily – there were probably 2 or 3 other plays. One ended in a pass interference, another probably a big play that he dropped. I think 2 more that were dropped but highly contested.
Right.
He could have easily gone over 200 yards, but he finishes with 7 catches, 171 yards, and a touchdown there for the Jags in that win against McGill-Tulane. So those 3 guys playing lights out along with Brock Bradley at the quarterback position there for Spain Park. As for the Vincent Yellow Jackets, defense, you've mentioned it throughout the show. 105 yards that they gave up there defensively, 0 points in a shutout effort. 49-0 shutout. That defense as a whole deserves an SCR Star of the Week there for the Yellow Jackets as they look to carry over that performance into this week. And then Kason Fields and Jaden Roberts. Kason Fields, 3 of 7. You don't hear that and think there's going to be a ton of yards that pair with that. Well, 152 yards, 2 touchdowns. Also had 5 rushes for 55 yards. So explosive plays there for Kason Fields. And you pair that with Jaden Roberts, who did the same exact thing. 8 carries, 95 yards, and a touchdown. Had a 52-yard touchdown run there in the win, but also a 65-yard touchdown catch as he goes for over 150 yards there, all-purpose for the Yellow Jackets. So big-time showing there from those Vincent and Spain Park players.
Absolutely, and we'll wrap it up with a pair of guys from the Shelby County Wildcats, obviously falling last week to Citronelle, but I really do think that the offense had a solid showing despite only getting 1 touchdown on the field. And Ryan Sipes in particular had one of the best passing performances I've seen of the few years that I've gotten to see him in the starting quarterback spot. Went 13 of 23 for 201 yards and a touchdown. I think he was strong throughout the night, able to make some big plays, especially under pressure, and really helped this team overcome a Citronelle defense that was really tough throughout the night and stay within this one. So I definitely liked him in that. And then obviously Anthony Palmieri, one more SCR star for the road for him, a phenomenal guy throughout the season. Was a little bit more limited on the yardage side, 110 yards off of 32 carries, but still, anytime you go for over 100 yards, you're able to help your offense do some solid things, and he was definitely one of the key reasons they were able to get some yardage down the field as well, set up some of those big pass plays from Ryan Sipes, and he was the recipient of the biggest pass play, 4 catches for 39 yards and a touchdown. That touchdown just off of a little check down pass, right down to him towards the right sideline, and all he did was just put on the moves and go 25 yards down the sideline to score. It was a really impressive play from him in the receiving game, and I really do think that that background as a receiver from him last season really continues to carry over to make him a great all-purpose offensive weapon. So another big shout out to those Shelby County Wildcats, 2 great pieces from a stellar team that really did some big things this year.
Yeah, incredible season for Shelby County. A lot of those other players we mentioned, if those teams win football games this week, you're going to hear them again next week. Trent Seaburn, Darian Mosley, Price Lewis, Corey Barber, Dakari Shanks, CJ Cowley, Jaden Roberts,
Kason Fields
Kason
as well.
Fields, the defenses for both Thompson and Vincent, and hopefully Spain Park if they show some improvement. So you're going to hear a lot of those names again next week. What I want to hear from Thompson, and in addition to names like Kevin Davis and others, Anquan Fagans, I think, is going to be a star if Thompson wins this game. A lot of teams are shying away from throwing it toward him, but he's going to find ways to make big plays, I think, if Thompson's able to win that football game, because Auburn's not going to be scared to test. You got to be confident if you want to win that game. So that's going to do it for this week's SCR Stars of the Week, but stay tuned next week. We'll see how many teams advance and how many stars we have to talk about on next week's show as well. That brings us to the end of this week's Shelby County High School football show, and you couldn't ask for a bigger week ahead. I know we don't have the same caliber of home games that we had last week, a ton of good home games, but the matchups make up for that going into this week. Thompson on the road against number 1 Auburn, a top 5 battle there. Spain Park at home again for the second straight week. Great chance against Russell County for them to advance to the quarterfinals of the 6A playoffs. Vincent at Winston County, a huge battle there. And you look at Cornerstone battling Evangel Montgomery for a spot in the AISA state championship. So a lot of excitement there on the schedule this week. Andrew, what are you looking forward to the most when you look at that schedule ahead?
To me, it's about Thompson and Vincent. They're both going up against 2 of their biggest tests of the season, and I really want to see in these 2 games just how good they truly are. We know they're both very good. We know that they're both very talented, and they've gotten it done over the past few weeks. But when the lights shine the brightest, and when the 2 of them have some big chances to make some big waves in the playoffs, if they get past these tests in front of them on the road, I really do think that they're going to come out here, play their best brand of football, and then from there, who knows? Obviously, I picked Auburn to win over Thompson and Vincent to win over Winston County, but I could see those games going either way. And I think that if you make the trip for either of those games or you catch them online, I really do think that you're going to be treated to some very good, high-quality football from those 2 teams.
Yeah, so when you look at the matchups ahead, when you look at the performances that we expect, what's the we got to do it again, the big, bold prediction this week for the 4 matchups that we've got taking place?
I already basically gave it away. I think Vincent's going to win, and to me, I think that's a little bit of a bold prediction going up against an undefeated team in Winston County. I think the defense performs well in that. If you want a bold prediction in that, I think they hold Winston County to under 2 scores within that one. I think that they're going to come out motivated for that, but obviously Winston County, I think their defense is going to shine and have its moments as well. So I do think it's still going to be a close 1 or 2 score game, but I think the Vincent defense leads the way and gets it done.
Yeah, I think for me, the big thing I'm going to look at, and it shows in our predictions this week, 3 of the 4 are going to continue playing after this week. I'm not sure that it's going to follow suit to exactly what we predicted, but I do think 3 of the 4 are going to advance, and we've got a chance that all 4 of these teams could make it past this week. But the one big thing I want to hone in on, and I just talked about it in our SCR Stars of the Week segment, Auburn is going to come out, and they're not going to be scared to test this Thompson defense. They know how talented they are, but they also know they got to make plays to win a championship this year against talented defenses. Anquan Fagans, I think, has at least 2 forced turnovers, or whether it's a fumble, whether he recovers them or not, I don't know, interceptions. He's going to have at least 2 turnovers in this game that he plays a part in, and I think that could be something that makes a difference. I think Thompson has at least 1 defensive score or a touchdown that sets them up, or a defensive play that sets them up with short field to work with. So I really think that defense is going to come out and play well, and I really need to see guys like Jared Smith, Anquan Fagans, and others that are the stars of the show this year step up and make those big plays in the biggest moments of games as well in this big matchup for top 5 teams. So any closing thoughts from you, Andrew, as we head into this second round of the playoffs, but possibly, hopefully, fingers crossed, not our last show of the year?
Yeah, we always hope that when these playoffs happen that this isn't our final show every single week. But we've had a phenomenal season so far. The fact that we have 3 teams get to this point in the AHSA, and then we have Cornerstone get to the semifinals in the AISA, and then Evangel win an ACSC championship, I think continues to show the strength of this county. We've got some of the best football around here in this area, and I think that that's going to shine once again this week. Obviously, we now get to see these teams play up against the teams that have been hyped up for a lot of the season as some of the teams to beat. And I really do think that in these matchups, you're going to see these teams play their best football this season. I don't expect any down games from the 4 teams that we have in this round. And if they go out on their shield. But I think that they're going to get everything done that they can in order to try and win this.
Are there any other levels of football in addition to the ACSC, the AISA, and the AHSA? I don't think there are when it comes to high school athletics. So we've already taken care of the ACSC with a state champion there. I still think Cornerstone's going to, I'm giving you another bold prediction on the fly, and I'm changing it all up. I'm going out on a limb here. I'm changing my pick from earlier in the show. I think we're going to get Cornerstone to win an AISA state championship, to knock out that one, and I think Thompson's going to win against Auburn and go on and win the state championship. Okay. I think we're going to knock out all 3 levels there when it comes to high school competition in the state. So we'll see if I just eat those words from everything else I've said in the entire show. But Spain Park also a strong chance that could back me up there if Thompson doesn't go on. But to me, this is it for Thompson or Auburn. Winner of this one is going to be your state champion. Okay. I've said it all year. I think Auburn's the best team in the state this year. So if Thompson can knock them off, they all of a sudden become that team at that point. So, yeah, a lot of excitement. A lot of excitement ahead. We're heading into just round 2 of the playoffs. That does mean the quarterfinals for 7A. It does mean the semifinals for the AISA. But we still got plenty ahead this year as we close down the 2024 season here in the playoffs. We'll see you all on Friday night. Facebook Live pregame show, YouTube Live pregame show, and X Live pregame show. We're going to be live on all of those platforms. Andrew down in Auburn for that Thompson-Auburn game. Me over at Spain Park for that big matchup. And obviously we're going to break down all 4 matchups that we have taking place here on Friday night as we look at those 4 big games taking place in the playoffs. That's going to do it. Alongside Andrew Simonson, I am Alec Etheridge. We appreciate you all for tuning in, and we'll see you on Friday night.